Hello everyone, hello grade 5 and welcome to our language class. So my name is Mr. Albert Vera and I will be your new teacher in language for the second reading until the end of the school year. Okay, so I hope that you are doing well and I also hope that you have your modules with you because we will be talking about our new lesson and our first lesson for the second reading period, which is the subject-verb agreement. Okay, so I hope that you do learn something out of the lesson that I will be talking about today, and I hope that you will listen very carefully so that you will not be confused because subject-verb agreement is kind of difficult, but it will be very easy because I am here to help you. Okay? Alright, so welcome to the PowerPoint presentation on subject verb agreement, the sore thumb of grammar. Alright, so subject verb agreement is associated with the sore thumb of grammar because there are some sentences that when we hear them, kind of it's kind of correct, but usually there are some grammatical errors that are occurred when you don't follow the different subject verb agreement. Okay, so first thing that you're going to take note of is that a singular subject demands a singular verb, and a plural subject demands a plural verb. So that is the simple principle behind subject-verb agreement. So if the subject is singular, you have to use a singular verb. And if the subject is plural, then you also have to use a plural verb. Okay, so don't worry because we will be talking about more of this as we go through our lesson today. Okay. Okay. So first thing or the second thing that we're going to take note of is that indefinite pronouns such as everyone and everybody feel plural, right? It sounds plural to some writers, but they are always singular and they take a singular verb. Example. Everyone associated with the project is proud to be part of the effort. Okay, so the indefinite pronoun there is everyone, and since everyone in the indefinite pronoun is considered as singular, we should use the singular verb which is. Okay, so it has to agree with each other. Okay, second sentence or second example. Someone has to be responsible. So someone is also a singular indefinite pronoun. So we have to use the verb has so that it will agree with each other. So again, indefinite pronouns feel plural to some writers. Example, the indefinite pronouns everyone and everybody, but they are always singular. So you have to take note of the different indefinite pronouns that are singular and indefinite pronouns that are plural. Okay, next thing, don't be confused by the phrases that come between the subject, pronoun, and its verb. Phrases that may contain plural words. So, example, each of the project partners is responsible for writing a chapter's summary. Okay? So the phrase here is each of the project partners. Okay, but the indefinite pronoun that we should take note of is the word each and not the project partners. Okay, so it may sound so confusing, but you have to find for the indefinite pronoun that is being talked about in the sentence. So the indefinite pronoun here is each, and we should use a singular verb in order for it to agree with each other. All right? Okay. So next, the verb that accompanies pronouns such as all and some will be determined by whether the noun is referring to something that is countable or not. So remember, masked noun and count nouns. These are very important um, discussions that you should have learned in the first grading, and especially when you were still in grade 4. Okay, so example, some of the students in the cafeteria have voted already. Okay, so pronouns such as all and some will be determined here whether the pronoun is referring to something that is countable. So you have to make sure that it could be counted or not. So some of the students here, can we count the students? Yes, of course. So we can count the students. So some students in the cafeteria, meaning to say the students here are plural because we use the word students with an S. So the verb here is have. Okay, so we use have in order for us or in order for the subject to agree with the verb. Okay, next example. Some of the grain was ruined by the flood. Okay, so we still use some, but can we count grain? No, we cannot count grain. So grain is a mass noun. So we use the singular form of the verb, which is was. Okay, so some of the grain was ruined by the flood. Okay, take note. Students is countable, but we cannot count the grain. It is one lump and one quantity. Okay, so none is usually regarded as singular, but it can be used as a plural noun. Okay, example, none of the representatives has indicated how he or she will vote, or none of the representatives have indicated how they will vote. Okay, so none of the representatives has, or you could say none of the representatives have indicated. Okay, so it's usually regarded as singular, but it can also be used as a plural pronoun. Okay, next. Okay, next. With fractional expressions, fractions or decimal equivalents, the verb will be determined by what is being measured. Is it countable or not? So it is, this one is a relation to the previous slide that we have shown earlier. So example, 2/5 of the grain is ruined. Okay, so when you say 2/5, this is a fractional expression, but we have to take note of the grain. Okay, so grain is a mass noun. So we use the verb is. Okay, so we cannot count grain. So we use the verb is. It is considered as singular. Next, one half of the students were convinced that there would be no final exams this year. Okay, so in the sentence, one half of the students were convinced that there would be no final exams this year. We talked about the students, or we are talking about here the students, but one half of them were convinced, so we use the plural form because students is a plural noun. Okay, so one half were convinced that there would be no final exams this year. Okay, next. Of all the returns we have counted so far, 50% are in favor of the referendum. Okay, so we are talking about returns here. Okay, so returns is a plural noun. So 50% are. So we use the verb are in order for it to agree with the subject. Okay, next, a majority of the student body is in favor of asking the dean to stay another year. Okay, so the student body, which is underlined here, and majority, it means that it is a collective noun. So when we say collective noun, we just use a singular form of the verb in order for it to agree with the subject. So the student body is considered as one student body already. So that is why we use is. Okay? So a majority of the student's body is in favor of asking the dean to stay another year. Okay, next. Phrases such as together with, along with, and as well as seem to join subjects. Okay, but they do not work the same as and because they are not conjunctions. Okay, so example, some of the some of the hay in the barn, as well as some major pieces of farm equipment, was ruined in the flood. So, if you encounter a word as well as, together with, along with, you can automatically disregard this one because these are just distractors. So do not include as well as some major pieces of farm equipment in the counting. Okay, because the subject here is only some of the hay in the barn. That is why we use the verb was in order for the subject, some of the hay in the barn, agree with the verb which is was. Okay? Next example. The major spending bill before Congress, together with some other bills that are awaiting action, is going to cost taxpayers plenty. So, what phrase here will we disregard? Okay, so we should disregard together with some other bills that are awaiting action. Okay, so we should just disregard about this one because we are just talking about the bill, which is the major spending bill before Congress. So we disregard together with some other bills that are awaiting action because that is just a distraction. That is why we should use the verb is going to cost taxpayers plenty. Okay, so did you understand that one? Always take note that together with, along with, and as well as seem to join subjects rather. So it is like a subject. It it feels that it belongs as a subject, but they do not work as subject. But they are not, and also they are not conjunctions. Okay? So in formal writing, when either and neither appear as a subject alone without their sidekicks, or and nor, they are singular. So this is true even though the subject seems to be two things. Okay, neither of these choices appears to be satisfactory. So when you say neither of these choices appears to be satisfactory, we just look at the word neither, okay? And this is considered as the subject, okay? So the subject is neither, so we use appears, and appears is a singular verb in order for this to agree with each other. Next, the purchasing office would lend me a company car or compensate me for travel expenses. Either is fine with me. So again, in formal writing, either and neither appear as a subject alone. They are singular. So either is fine with me. Okay. However, when either and neither act as correlative conjunctions, life becomes a bit more complicated. Okay? So when either and neither or neither act as correlative conjunctions, the subject that is closer to the verb determines the number of singular or plural form of the verb. Example, neither the principal nor the teachers are at fault. So you take note of the subject that is closer to the verb because this will determine the number whether we use the singular form or the plural form of the verb. In this sentence, neither the principal nor the teachers are at fault. We look at the subject teachers because this is closer to the verb. So we use, so teachers there is a plural noun. So we use a plural verb as well, which is are. Okay, next. Either the teachers or the principal has to be responsible for the year-end festival. Okay, either the teachers or the principal. Which one is closer to the verb? Okay, yes, you got it right. It's the principal that is closer to the verb. So we use the verb has in order for it to agree with each other. Okay, so either the teachers or the principal has to be responsible for the year-end festival. Last example, has either the president or his aides been in touch with you? Okay, so in this sentence, has either the president or his aides been in touch with you? The nearer subject here is the president. So the verb that is used in the beginning of the sentence is has. So has either the president or his aides been in touch with you? So the president there is near to the subject. Okay? Oh, rather, the president is nearer to the verb. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, next. When an expletive construction, there is, there are, here is, or etc. begins a sentence, the subject which determines the number of the verb comes after the verb. For example, there are several explanations for the Civil War. Okay, so the subject here is the explanations. Okay, so explanations here is a plural noun. So we use are after the word there. So there are several explanations for the Civil War. Okay, next. We were looking down the street when all of a sudden here come Joe and his two brothers. Okay, so the subject here is Joe and his two brothers. So Joe and his two brothers are considered as plural nouns. So we use the verb come. Okay. Next example. If the management team takes this attitude, there is very little latitude for negotiation. Okay. We use, or the one that is being talked about here is latitude. So we use the verb is. So there is very little latitude for negotiation. Okay, so be careful when lengthy or numerous modifying phrases come between the subject and its verb. Okay, so for example, Tim Berners-Lee, one of America's most prominent computer scientists and as the founder of the World Wide Web Consortium, one of the most important figures in the development of the Internet, has been working quietly at MIT for many years. So the fact that the plural scientists and figures appear in this sentence has no effect on our choice of a singular verb has. Okay, so we have to use has because we're just talking about Tim Berners-Lee. All right, next. Excuse me. With off phrases, try turning the sentence inside out to find the right subject-verb combination. Example, Connecticut is one of those states that have or has adopted a state income tax. Okay, so you say Connecticut. So Connecticut is just one. And we also use here, the verb that we have to use is have or has. So Connecticut again, Connecticut is one of those states that have or has adopted a state income tax. So we can turn this sentence around to of the states that have adopted a state income tax, Connecticut is one. Okay, so this makes it easy to figure out the verb that belongs in a relative clause. Okay, so there. Next, so those are the different rules in subject-verb agreement that we have to take note of. Okay, so please, if you have any questions, you could email me through my email. And you could also comment here in the classroom link if you have a hard time so that I will be able to teach you. Okay, so review also the rest of the module materials on subject-verb agreement. And don't forget to take the assessments that are also found in your module. Alright, so thank you very much for listening to my lesson, which is the subject-verb agreement. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you next lesson and next video. Okay, goodbye.